I wasn't supposed to be in front of you right now. You know those assignments they give you when you're younger? Write on this sheet of paper what you want to be when you grow up. I watched over the years as each of my friends changed from doctor to Olympic ice skater to esthetician to, I don't know, dancer, vet. Mine was always singer. It never changed, not once. My very first experience singing in front of an audience was when I was 3, and I sang That's the Love of God in a little girls quartet at my church. And I'm singing and I'm staring at the back of this church with this beautiful stained glass cross. And I had this deep knowing in my heart that said to me, you're gonna be doing this the rest of your life. So from 3 to 25, I am singing everywhere for everyone, presidents, dignitaries, celebrities, weddings, concerts. I did Broadway, sang all over the US, Scotland, Europe, Africa. And as most industry entertainers know, if you're watching this, you know this, most of your work happens on nights and weekends, and my inner entrepreneur just had to monetize my day. So I began to casually coach vocalists at the ripe old age of 14. And fun fact, my very first voice student was actually my mom's housekeeper. She would clean my mom's house and then come into my bedroom for her voice lesson at the end of it. But honestly, I never really took coaching seriously. It was just something that I did. And to be honest, it was just something I was doing because it made sense. I didn't change that feeling actually as the years went on. That sentiment only got stronger. If I'm being super real with you, the selfish young me has to confess that I viewed it as a waste of my time and talent even. I mean, think about it. I'm young, I'm inexperienced, and I'm pouring into others when I felt like I should be pouring into my own career. And I wanted everything to happen for me like yesterday. So during this season in my life, I'm living in South Carolina, about to cut coaching out of my life, when I get a really random phone call from a woman named Ivy. And she calls me up and she says, "Hi, I got your number from your website and I was wondering if you could give my son Peter piano lessons." But my website at the time was exclusively geared towards my career as a vocalist and to book me to perform. It didn't mention anywhere on it coaching, much less piano coaching. I was about to tell her no, I'm not the right fit, and she kept going and she said, "Everywhere we go, we've been told no." Now, if you know me at all, you know that I never take no for an answer. I interpret a no as a not yet or a try harder. So this instantly annoyed me and piqued my curiosity at the same time. And I said to her, "Why have you been told no?" And she said, "My son has Down syndrome, but is exceptional at the piano. But no one will take him on because they say his hands are too small to play the pieces that he wants to learn." And as she's telling me this, I can feel my face getting hot with rage. And before I could even think twice about the logic of what I was about to say, I was like, "Bring him to me, I want to hear him." So they come, and my first meeting with Peter, he sits down on my piano and he plays me this Chopin piece that I could only dream of playing. And yeah, his hands were small, but he was so determined. Even though he couldn't stretch to reach the octave, and an octave, by the way, is 8 notes, he played one note after the other so fast that it sounded as if he were playing the notes in tandem. And I was just looking at him floored. And I told his parents, "Peter's better than me, by far, but I know enough to correct his mistakes, work on his timing, and most importantly, I will never tell him no. Because in my mind, there's nothing on the piano he can't do." The funny thing is, as I taught Peter piano, he taught me to truly coach. See, God used Peter to change my very heart. This was a life lesson. I no longer saw my time spent with students or Peter as a sacrifice or a waste of my time, but rather a high calling, a privilege, and an honor. And as I realized the impact this high calling was, without any effort, without any marketing, without any SEO, my phone starts to ring off the hook with more students just by word of mouth because of the progress that they're making and the heart that I'm putting into my lessons. So my time in South Carolina is coming to an end and I moved to Atlanta, but I'm still driving back and forth weekly to coach my students in South Carolina as I'm building another branch in Atlanta. And shortly after moving, I got another call from Ivy telling me that Peter was diagnosed with bone marrow leukemia. And that's when she said something to me very unusual. She asked me, Tara, would you please give Peter a piano lesson during his first round of chemo? But without hesitating, I pack up my keyboard, I drive to South Carolina to Peter's hospital room, and I set it up, and Peter and I were about business as usual, as if nothing was different, as if we were in my living room again. And I chose not to go easy on him in the lesson. And we started like we always do with our ritual questions. Hi, Tara, what did you have for breakfast? And I would respond and ask him back, and his answer was always unequivocally, toasted oats. And then he would ask me, what makes you happy, Tara? And I would answer, you do, Peter. And off we went in our lesson. And the nurses they couldn't get over it. They're standing there behind us, like with their mouths open, and they say they've never seen such perfect vitals and response to chemo treatment in their entire career. So, first knowing Peter, he taught me how to coach. But in that moment and onward, Peter taught me how to fight, because the rest of the year he underwent painful chemo. But I still coached him every week. And his mom told me after one lesson, Tara, Peter's in a lot of pain and he lays in bed most of the week. But he always finds it in him to crawl into the car to get to his piano lesson with you. And still, it's been years, but to this day, I cannot talk about that without crying. I mean, talk about living out my saying of 90% mental and 10% talent. I mean, the grit of that little boy. And all the while during this time, my business is rapidly growing in Atlanta, and I'm operating out of this church I attended because I had too many students to coach from my home. And eventually I had to find my own space because I had more coaches working for me at the time than the church had employees working for them in their music department. Tara Simon Studios brick and mortar officially opened in Atlanta July 1st, 2014. And we were exploding. But in December that year, I got the best gift I could have ever asked for. A call from Ivy saying that Peter was in remission. They took a trip to Atlanta on New Year's Eve that year to celebrate, and I got to show Peter the studio for the first time. And I sat him down on my white piano, you know, the one that I started my vocal reactions on. And I said, Peter, do you know where you are? And he said, I'm at your studio, Tara. And I was like, yeah, but do you know the reason the studio exists? And he looked at me kind of funny and he was like, no, Tara. And I said, you, Peter, you're the reason. He gave me a really big hug, super tight. And then he played me a song, and I so proudly showed him around the rest of the space. But later that year, in the summer, I was on a break in the middle of a performance when Ivy called me to tell me that the night before, Peter passed away in his sleep. The cancer had come back. Now, I've sung through many things in my life, but this moment, complete heartbreak. I've never had to sing through such deep sorrow than in that moment. And now that I have a son, I know that I truly loved Peter like he was my own. He changed my life forever. And I carry him in my spirit wherever I go. And if I've changed your life at all, it goes back to him. Peter always wanted to know what made people happy. Music made him happy. And if you're watching this, chances are it makes you happy too. And that's really what this channel's all about. It's about mattering. Peter mattered. You matter. Your voice matters. It matters to me. So Peter's dream was to hit 1 million views on one of his videos on his YouTube channel. So if you care to help me honor his memory, would you please click here once, twice, or even 1 million times on this video to help me fulfill his lifelong dream? Because together we can make it come true. I do love you guys. I'm grateful for you, and I'm so proud of you. And if you were wondering, this is how Tara Simon Studios came to be.